being sent to Haiti to restore normalcy in that country. Now, the U.S. drafted resolution was also actually received a lot of overwhelming support, and President William Ruto said that he's okay with the decision, and so 1,000 police officers will be sent to the Caribbean nation to help restore normalcy, help fight the criminal gangs, and just to help to stabilize that particular nation. We'll be taking a look at that later on The Viewpoint. That is a discussion that you don't want to miss. Themed Kenya to the rescue. Is it a setup, or is Kenya going to flourish where others have failed?
We've flourished in other places as well. I mean,
that
we've had our, we've had our men in uniform, taking on, take up this particular challenge. We've seen them in South Sudan, we've seen them in Sudan, that is Somalia. We've also seen them in Kosovo. So I think Haiti, we can as well conquer.
It also presents a learning curve for the police force.
For the police, okay, Regina laughed when I said that. Regina was in Haiti. Is it Haiti or Haiti?
It's Haiti.
It depends on who taught you English.
Yeah.
It really depends, on your primary school teacher.
Yeah.
And also if you did phonetics and
English.
English.
It's the same as Kenya. Kenya.
There's Kenya and then there's Kenya. At the end of the day, we all know where we are, right?
Exactly.
But now that conversation on Kenya participating, and it's not just Kenya. The way we look at it when it comes to that security issue in Haiti there.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just Kenya, but it's like a collaborative effort by various states. Yes. To try and, liberate, so to speak, the people of that country. But the question, it has caused a lot of debate, especially on social media. And one of the memes I saw is a question actually to the government that if our current armed forces cannot deal with insurgents, from Al-Shabaab that have been, causing mayhem across our borders, especially in the north and the coastal region, then why do you think that we need to join? But then I remember the goods that AMISOM did in Somalia.
Yes.
So we also need to look at it, in a broader perspective. And there are those who are saying, look at the money, follow the money. Well, but that's just propaganda. I'm not going to dwell into that. I'm just saying there must be something in for Kenya in that. And remember, Kenya has really been working at having, it sits at the UN Security Council.
Yes.
So this is part of its mandate, so to speak, to show why it is actually in that particular council. And if our executive actually did convince the UN of our capacity and capability to, then why not?
Actually, Kenya is going to lead. It's Kenya leading the multinational approach, the security bit that is going to restore sanity there. So Kenya is leading the pack. Yeah.
So if we could convince them to give us an opportunity, then we should all, as Kenyans, be praying that our men and women actually deliver on that particular front.
Absolutely.
No, so much has been said about this, and I hope we can have a candid conversation. Unfortunately, when it comes to matters of security and military operations, you'll rarely have them as part of discourse in broadcast, so to speak. But we trust if this is an opportunity for Kenya to actually show what she got when it comes to matters of security, given that we have really clamored for that position within the UN Security Council, where Kenya sits as a non-permanent member. So we'll be keeping tabs on that, though. We want to see the dynamics it's going to take. And talking about bringing you up to speed, we want to remind you that in the event that you're not able to actually sit and watch this particular broadcast from the comfort of your home, like, the proverbial television and such, we are streaming live on our various social media platforms. And I'd want to take this opportunity to actually condole with the family that is watching all the way from the United States of America, who they lost their loved one, and they're going to be interring her in less than 24 hours. My condolences to Tony's family that are watching this particular broadcast all the way from the United States of America. You too can be part of this particular conversation, and our Twitter handle is ever open at KBC Channel 1, and we are streaming on KBC Stream Live. We expect your feedback on Twitter and also on other social media platforms. I'm Regina Manyara. Now let me bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours. And we start off in Kakamega County, where a number of students from St. Teresa Erigi Girls High School are being admitted to hospital in Kakamega County from an unknown illness. Currently, 95 students are hospitalized as medics run tests to diagnose the disease. Kaschana Masha reports.
Kakamega Level 5 Hospital. Students from St. Teresa's Eregi Girls High School in Kakamega County were admitted to different wards.
Mimi nilikuwa niko town kule nyumbani. Kwa vita kuangalia media nikacheki mtu amepost ya kwamba kule Eregi kuna ugonjwa umetokea.
Shtuka sana juu sikuwa nikitarajia kupata kitu kama hii, being that I had not gotten the information.
Ukiangalia watoto wanatembea like zombies. Yeah, wako paralyzed.
According to Kakamega County CEC for Health, 95 students are hospitalized in various healthcare facilities in the county, namely Iguhu Hospital, Kakamega Referral Hospital, Mukumu Mission Hospital and Shibwe Hospital.
Kuna wanafunzi 20 wenye wako kwa hospitali ya Iguhu. Kuna wanafunzi 30 wenye wako kwa hospitali kuu ya Kakamega County, na tuko na wanafunzi 31 wenye wako Mukumu Mission Hospital, na tuko na wanafunzi 14 wenye wako Shibwe Hospital.
Samples of blood, urine and stool have been collected and sent to both the Kisumu Laboratory and Kenya Medical Research Institute in Nairobi for extensive testing to identify the mysterious disease.
Ngoja matokeo yake kuanzia kesho na ndio tujue hasa kiini ya hii ugonjwa ni gani.
The 6 students reported feeling paralysis and knee pain.
Shida ya kuumwa na miguu kutokea kwa magoti, alafu wakashindwa kutembea.
Regional Director of Education Jared Obiero has assured parents and the public that the situation is being managed effectively amidst rumors that more than 100 students are hospitalized.
We had a meeting and they reassured us that they are investigating, but so far things are under control, and I want to urge the parents not to be worried because we are in charge and we are under control.
For their diagnosis to that issue. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is calling on the national and county governments to strictly comply with procurement laws in anticipation of the El Nino. The EACC is warning that accounting officers found in breach of the law will be held personally responsible.
The rain is coming, says the weatherman. However, the anti-graft watchdog is warning that it will not be business as usual if anyone uses the El Nino as an excuse to plan the public resources.
Kwa sababu tusipofanya hivyo, kuna watu watasema watu hapa wamelala, tuanze kufanya vituko vyetu. Alafu utakuja kusikia blanketi moja imenunuliwa shilingi 10,000. Mipango inapangwa si kulingana na mahitaji ya vile hii hatari itakuwako. Ni mipango inapangwa kulingana na tutakula vipi hizi pesa.
In a statement, EACC Chief Executive Officer Twalib Mbarak says the Commission has noted that there is a tendency to disregard the law in the implementation of mitigation measures. The anti-graft watchdog has in the past raised concerns about the spending habit of counties, especially during disaster management.
Wafuate zile taratibu zote za kutafuta zabuni, tenda na kila kitu ifanye kulingana na sheria zile ambazo zimewekwa na serikali upande wa mambo ya procurement na mambo ya fedha.
EACC has warned that no one will be spared in efforts to guard public coffers.
Now, that follows a report warning actually from the Met Department that indicates over 72% of the country is going to be experiencing heavy downpour between the months of October all the way to January 2024. Now, to politics, the National Dialogue Committee has retreated to write a report after 2 weeks of receiving memoranda from various institutions and members of the public. The committee received over 140 submissions that will be included in the report to be presented to the President and Azimio leader Raila Odinga in a month. Here's our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim with the details.
Political differences between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza played out on Tuesday before the National Dialogue Committee. The two factions held different opinions on the cost of living, the audit of the 2022 polls, and the reconstitution of IBC, just to name a few. Azimio delegation led by former Laikipia Governor Nderitu Mureithi is proposing that the Finance Act 2023 be repealed in its entirety and that the IBC service be opened.
Every entity of the state, counties, national government, parastatals, everybody gets audited. We must audit this process, and it is by auditing that then we can know what we are fixing.
On the issue of the 2022 elections, we are not in support of any audit. We are supporting the enactment of the Constitution.
Kenya Kwanza, in opposing the proposals by the Raila Amolo Odinga-led team, argued that the reconstitution of IBC should be a priority.
We do away with the winner-takes-it-all mentality after an election. We want our country to feel more inclusive moving forward.
The commissioners and the secretariat quarrel all the time. Even when you change the commissioners, you will notice that commissions also fight amongst themselves. You will also notice that the law seems to create unusual decision-making.
The National Council of Churches of Kenya also told the committee that it is a matter of urgency that IBC be reconstituted to enable it to meet the set constitutional deadlines. The committee also received submissions from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which said there is a need to adhere to Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
I have always argued that whoever thinks that corruption will be fully addressed by an agency, one agency, is very wrong. Corruption must be addressed in threefold. We must address our political culture. The previous chair said that if you don't have money, you cannot contest.
Like the recent case, which I think has been referred to here, of one of the governors who was summoned to EACC offices for former governor rather. In EACC for probing and investigation and interrogation. The party to which this former governor belongs came out in full force, alleging that this was politicization and weaponization of EACC. As we speak now, we have just concluded our investigations on this particular person. We have forwarded that file to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution.
The committee has retreated to write its report and is expected to submit it within 30 days.
We'll be eagerly waiting for that report. Now, President William Ruto has directed ministries to cut their current financial year budgets by 10% to align expenditures with available resources amid the global economic stress. The president spoke while chairing the weekly cabinet meeting at State House, Nairobi.
In what could be a pointer to the tough balancing act the government has to do to deal with the global economic crunch, President William Ruto has directed ministries to cut their 2023-2024 financial year budget by 10% to align expenditures with available resources. The directive comes at the backdrop of a circular by the head of Public Service Monday, regulating foreign travel by public officials. Speaking when he chaired a cabinet meeting, the president warned that action would be taken against officials engaging in corruption and overseeing wastage in public offices. Meanwhile, the cabinet has approved the setting aside of 4 billion shillings to purchase maize from farmers. Following complaints that the oncoming El Nino rains would spell doom for maize farmers yet to dry their cereals, the cabinet approved funds that will support farmers in drying and storing the produce. Additionally, the cabinet approved the Gambling Policy 2023, the Gambling Control Bill 2023 and the National Lottery Bill 2023, which will be forwarded to Parliament with the intention of providing a framework for transforming the gambling industry into a force for social progress. The Cabinet also approved the immediate partial lifting of the moratorium on the issuance of new mineral rights for industrial and construction minerals. The issuance will, however, be staggered as the government develops means for their exploitation to ensure Kenyans reap maximum benefit.
President William Ruto has welcomed the United Nations Security Council's approval of the Multinational Security Support Mission to Haiti. The head of state says the resolution made will aid emergency relief, humanitarian aid and support for livelihoods for Haiti citizens. Kenya is deploying 1,000 police officers to Haiti to join their peers from contributing countries in battling criminal gangs who have taken over the Haitian streets, a decision that has courted varied reactions from Kenyans.
In the vote taken on Monday, the Security Council voted to send the multinational armed forces to be led by Kenya to the Caribbean nation as the world commits to support it in dealing with violent gangs. The resolution was approved by 13 votes, while Russia and China abstained. President William Ruto has welcomed the move as a win for the Haiti people, as the presence of the multinational forces would aid in the distribution of aid and support for livelihoods.
This mission is a fundamental intervention to provide the necessary conditions for Haiti to consolidate its development and governance.
The head of state says the mission is focused on solely providing an appropriate environment for the leadership of a country to chart a path for stability, development, and democratic governance.
An appropriate environment for the leadership of both the political and civil society sectors to usher in stability, development, and democratic governance through a political framework owned and driven by the people of Haiti.
The decision by Kenya to deploy police officers to Haiti has attracted varied reactions amongst Kenyans.
Those criminal elements in Haiti, first of all, I think they don't need police. They need soldiers.
I think that the Kenyan police force is a force that we have. We have faith in it, and there's no reason why we should doubt their capacity.
In dismissing the criticism against the mission, Ruto says Kenya possesses excellent international peace initiatives credentials and therefore cannot afford to give a blind eye to human suffering.
The people of Haiti, our dear friends, today stand in need. It is our fundamental moral obligation to be their friend indeed.
He has also rallied African nations to support the mission, christening it a Pan-African commitment to support a sacred duty towards its own flesh and blood. Other nations deploying forces to Haiti are Jamaica, Bahamas, Antigua and Barbuda.
Well, we believe they are capable. Why not? Still on matters security and crime now, locally, police in Nakuru have in their custody 16 suspected criminal gang members who were apprehended after an intense sting operation in Kaptwembe and Rwanda informal settlements on Monday night. Area County Police Commander Samuel Ndayi says the middle-aged man believed to be a gang ringleader who has been on the run for months escaped the police dragnet.
A tip-off by members of the public-led security agents to downtown Nakuru. At Kaptembo and Rwanda informal settlements, police apprehended 16 suspects. They also recovered a toy pistol, an assortment of crude weapons and bang.
Tumeweza kuwashika na vifaa tofauti, vifaa butu, imitation za bunduki, those are toy pistols. Tumeweza kuwashika na visu, bangi na vifaa za kutumika kusokota bangi.
However, a middle-aged man suspected to be a ringleader of one of the notorious gangs in the area evaded arrest.
Na sita kule Rwanda police station, wote wamefika hapa, wote kwa ujumla ni 16 ambao tuko nao hapa.
Area County Police Commander Samuel Ndayi lauded members of the public and urged them to continue being vigilant. The suspects in custody are said to be arraigned in court on Wednesday to face charges of engaging in elements of criminal activities in the region.
Watakuwa nafikishwa kotini na hii operation itaendelea. Kumekuwa na mambo hapa na pale kusema magengo yamerudi, lakini nashukuru wananchi wameweza kutupa taarifa kwa wakati ufaao.
Kaptembwa and Rwanda are among the areas considered insecure due to the proliferation of criminal gangs. Early this year, 200 suspects, among them teenagers, were arrested and arraigned in Nakuru courts for their varied levels of involvement in two notorious criminal gangs. Members of the two gangs, namely Mauki and Confirm, were also involved in violence, which led to the loss of one life and closure of businesses in Kaptembwa, Shabab, and Ronda areas. The two gangs are known to burglarize residential houses in Nakuru City and also engage in cybercrime.
Still on crime, Chief Justice Martha Koome says lack of funds and expertise, among other challenges, continue to incapacitate the judiciaries in Africa in combating transnational organized crimes and illicit financial flows.
Mombasa City is hosting this year's African Judicial Dialogue on adjudicating transnational organized crimes and illicit financial flows. 21 countries across the African continent are represented in the forum. Chief Justice Martha Koome called for robust enforcement of laws and the adoption of new strategies to combat the fast-evolving transnational organized crimes and illicit financial flows.
I am a firm believer that as criminals adapt to the modern world, so must we, in the law enforcement and administration of justice, also adapt to the contemporary world. We should strive to go ahead of them. As they evolve, so must our strategies and tactics.
She, however, noted that lack of funds and expertise, among other challenges, have continued to incapacitate the judiciaries in Africa.
We also suffer lack of resources to carry out very intricate investigations, to bring witnesses and support those witnesses to be able to give evidence. We require expertise. We rarely get experts in this area. We require cooperation and instruments that can enable us cooperate easily. A court sitting in Nairobi with another court sitting in Burkina Faso or any other part of the region.
According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, transnational organized crimes generate an estimated 2.7% of the global GDP, with an annual value of approximately $1.6 trillion, while the Global Financial Integrity has recorded that amount to an annual value of approximately $1.1 trillion.
To business, Industrialization Principal Secretary Dr. Juma Mukhwana says Kenya is seeking an extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act from the U.S. to increase textile exports in America. Here's Benson Rioba with the details.
The textile and garments accounted for 7% of Kenya's total exports in 2022, with the country exporting textile products worth 4.5 billion shillings monthly. Kenya is hopeful that the United States would extend the African Growth and Opportunity Act that expires in the year 2025 to secure textile and garments exports to America.
PS for Trade, Alfred Kombudo, is out in the US negotiating about a new AGOA arrangement. So we are looking for an extension of 10 years so that Kenyan farms and factories that make clothes can access the US market duty-free and quota-free.
Dr. Mkwana says Kenya is also in talks with India textile companies to set up base in Kenya to meet growing textile demand locally and internationally.
We are coming to, for example, make clothes within our EPZs. You know that you have a tax holiday for 10 years. You don't pay income tax. We are working on our electricity tariffs. If you go to Naivasha now, we have already cassetted in the Naivasha Special Economic Zone. We have put power at 5 cents per kilowatt hour.
A number of Indian companies have made inquiries on setting subsidiaries in Kenya as a gateway to the regional markets.
More Indian companies would like to come and establish themselves in Kenya. We understand there are many EPZs and other possible policy initiatives which will attract more investment.
As the industry revives, I think that there is some interest to do some parts of the manufacturing process within Kenya so that they have access not only to the East African but the rest of the African market.
The India Textile Society has scheduled a second edition of ITME Africa and Middle East 2023 Expo in Nairobi next month that has seen 24 countries confirm participation.
The government is digitizing the public procurement process in a number of reforms geared towards making public procurement more transparent. Principal Secretary for State Department of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Susan Mangani, says complexities in the tendering process and slow harmonization of policy guidelines is discouraging MSMEs from doing business.
Kenya ranks 13th in the list of countries that supply goods and services to the United Nations globally. Despite this, a share of micro, small and medium enterprises is still low, a sector that contributes about 40% of the GDP and accounts for over 80% of jobs. MSMEs, particularly those owned by vulnerable groups, continue to face a number of challenges at the domestic and international level, including unfair competition from imports and internal constraints relating to market developments, high infrastructure costs, among others. Principal Secretary for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Susan Mangani, says a number of reforms are being undertaken in the public procurement system to make it more transparent.
We have initiated review and necessary reforms we are discussing with the various stakeholders.
Complexities in the tendering process, slow harmonization of policy guidelines and capacity constraints are undermining the growth of the sector.
From next week, we'll be engaging with the county governments because you see they're also very critical in this space to see how now we can harmonize some of these policies, some of these licensing. And right now, looking at our regulatory frameworks, I think there were complaints here, which of course I agree with them, that they're very complex and the kind of licensing that are needed are also kind of, they kind of discourage MSMEs even to proceed.
She appealed to the international markets to relax some regulations that make it difficult for MSMEs to trade and access foreign markets.
The only way to make competitive is to have an assured, sustainable market, and so we are asking the outer world to enable us also globalize our Kenyan value chains to their market. So we asking them to pull down some of the unnecessary barriers.
The government is also reviewing policy governing payments to MSMEs, with the PS appealing to the Senate to reconsider the prompt payment bill of 2022 to fast-track payment of pending bills.
People who get affected with huge pending bills are the MSMEs.
Now to sports, the cabinet has endorsed the construction of a new stadium in preparation for the Africa Cup of Nations in 2027. The new stadium will be constructed in Nairobi in readiness for the championship that Kenya jointly won bid to host alongside her East African neighbors, Tanzania and Uganda.
The cabinet, in a meeting chaired by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi, endorsed the construction of the new 60,000 capacity Talanta Stadium, which will be constructed at Jamhuri Grounds in Nairobi, and is one of the 4 stadia presented by Kenya to host the 38th edition of the Africa Cup of Nations in 2027. The cabinet also okayed the renovation of other key facilities that are set to host the biennial tournament. Facilities that are in line for renovations include Moi International Sports Centre Kasarani, Nyayo Stadium, and Kipchoge Keino Stadium in Eldoret. Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania won the bid to host the Continental Showpiece in 2027, while Morocco will host the 2025 finals.
Well, that puts a cap on Matters News this morning. Our website is open for your perusal, www.kbc.co.ke. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. I'm Regina Manyara.
Government of Turkana welcomes you to the Ehale Center in Lodwar Town for the 7th edition of the Turkana Cultural and Tourism Festival. from 12th to the 14th of October 2023. Come, experience the origin of mankind with its unmatched beauty, from the beaches of Lake Turkana to the oil wells of Lokichar. Live on Channel 1, Radio Taifa and KBC Turkana Service.
Nini mnaenda kukamua ng'ombe za shule, mnanyonya matiti ya ng'ombe? Nani anafanyanga hivi?
Lili bwana mtoto kidogo, wewe ujifanye baba yake.
Ukanipatia pesa mimi.
Mimi si mwalimu.
Basi hapa ya ng'ombe ya ndama ndio hiyo sasa. Wait. When did you teach your baby to come to kunyonya the matiti ya ng'ombe? When? Okay, let me tell you. I'm a baby face, my friend. Mtu mwingine anafanana na hiyo sura.
Sura yako siwezi sawa.
He's lying, Your Honor. This man's a criminal and the whole town knows it. Your Honor, I'm not going to let him take my son.
The answer is no, no, and no. I won't do that.
And about the two of us? I think this is impossible. It's madness.
No.
Forget about it.
Wait. The only thing that I can tell you is that the bull was not there by accident. What did you do in the end? You kissed him, right?
I'm done being your wife. Right now, what I want is a divorce.
Nasema hivi, naona siku hizi kazi za masecretary zimehamia majumbani.
Wamaanisha nini?
Yaani imefikia mahali wewe uandeka mimi kwa voicemail. Kila nikikupigia simu mteja, ulikuwa unatarajia mimi fanye nini?
Shungi ngoja tu unajua nitakuja ofisini tuongea.
Wewe ulitaka kuua mtu kwa kumjeruhi kwanza.
Nyanyuka kanenda. Wewe uko na madharau sana wewe. Unacheka nini sasa? Unakula space ya bure hapo. Nenda katoe kiviti chako, nenda.
Right, welcome back. It's now 5 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome back to the program. My name is Victor Law. All right, on the viewpoint today, we want to talk about the issue of the UN Security Council actually okaying Kenya police officers to go to Haiti to help restore calm and sanity in that particular country. That will be coming later on. And I have my guest already in studio. That is Wilson Sosion with the CS and the former NAT Secretary General. Welcome to the program, Mwalimu.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning and good morning, our viewers.
Karibu sana. We are also expecting more guests to arrive shortly. But right about now, how about we take a look at what's on the traffic before you leave your house? All right. As always, let's go straight into starting with the capital city, that is Nairobi. The traffic situation in Nairobi is like this. Now, today I want to start with one of the most unlikely roads. This is James Gishuru heading towards ABC Place. It's already a bumper to bumper coming all the way to Lavington Green. After Lavington Green is joining Kingana Road. Kingana Road also joining Ngong Road. So that is a mess. If you're using Ngong Road heading towards James Gishuru, Gitanga Road, or heading towards Wayaki Way, then be patient with James Gishuru or be patient. That spills over to Ngong Road past that is past Junction Mall, coming down to RFU ground, that is Impala Club, and ultimately along Ngong Road down to Nairobi National, that's Nairobi Hospital thereabout, or City Mortuary about, is also moving pretty well. But down to Valley Road, ultimately into the CBD, is moving okay. Now, Mombasa Road, how is it looking like? This is the situation on Mombasa Road this particular morning, starting all the way from Ole Sereni, Maradaima, moving very well. Of course, you have got two alternatives. You can either use the expressway or the normal route that we are used to. That is the normal Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road moving very well, very, very well. Past Capital Center is smoothly into the CBD, joining Uhuru Highway and into the CBD, kila kitu iko sawa. That is Mombasa Road. Langata Road also, so far so good today. In the morning, this is your time to leave. If you want to get to work within no time, this is your time to come to work. Langata Road, all the way from Nairobi Safari Walk there, that is coming from Carnival, joining past Wilson Airport, all moving okay to that is around City Stadium, Nyayo National Stadium, also looking pretty fine. How about heading towards Mbagathi Way? Mbagathi Way also moving vizuri sana. That's as far as that is concerned. How about western side of the city? This is Westlands coming all the way from Kangemi down to ABC Place, joining Westlands roundabout, shopping center thereabout, coming to the National Museum, and ultimately into Uhuru and Wayaki Way, all moving fine. A bit of some traffic inside the CBD because that's where we know that is the nerve center of the town, of the city. Jogorod, Jogorod, good morning. Islando? It's not looking okay. It's not looking okay. It starts from Nile Road. Nile Road heading towards Buruburu Junction there. Inasonga pole pole as you use towards coming to town using Jogo Road. You'll have to be patient. All right? That is that. Islando, if you can use an alternative route, then that is okay. Now, if you are using this side of Outer Ring, so far so good, you can come into the CBD. Finally, this is Thika Road. Thika Road is already a mess. All the way from KCA University, it's already in dark. That is the traffic situation, bumper to bumper, all right? Tailgate to tailgate. This is where it is. So, Thika Road, spilling over to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, that is past Muthaiga Golf Club, coming towards the Muthaiga Square there, moving. Actually, this completely stuck. It's almost just a few minutes past 7 a.m. That is Thika Road, serving the city. That is the traffic situation in the CBD. Okay, how about we get towards Mombasa? Mombasa, good morning. Towards from Nyali Road, that is how it looks like. That is all the way from Nyali Road, coming all the way to Kengeleni, or past Bamburi, coming all the way to around Mariakani Market, that is Kongowe Market. Today it's looking so far so good. Past there, coming to the new Nyali Bridge, sasa mambo imechemka hapa. All right? Nyali Bridge, new Nyali Bridge is a mess. Kameshikana vibaya sana. Watu Mombasa, good morning. All right, past that, so far, so good, coming into the CBD. How about coming all the way from that side of Makupa Bridge, coming to the CBD, in and out of the Mombasa city, so far, so good. That is Mombasa. Likoni Ferry, finally, it looks okay. It looks okay. No much of traffic at this particular place, at the Likoni Ferry. So, yeah, watu Mombasa, I hope mko salama sana. Asante sana. That is as far as that concerned. Mheshimiwa Sosion, there is no traffic in Bomet. It looks okay.
No, there must be vehicles moving. It's not a small town.
There's no traffic. This is how it looks like. Hakuna kila kitu iko sawa hapa.
Kila kitu mzuri.
Kila kitu iko sawa. Everybody's on the run.
And Kericho?
Okay, I'll come to Kericho.
Kericho and Bomet are
all people are using flights in Bomet, probably. That's the thing. Okay, people are on the run, pun intended, in Bomet. But it looks okay. It looks okay. All right. Okay, we'll come back to others later on. I promise to take a look at what's happening in Kericho, as you've correctly put it, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much again for joining us. Let me take you through the front page of our local list. Let me start with the Star newspaper. Secret agents to spy on state officials' accounts. That is state secret agents to spy on state officials' accounts. Tough new rules meant to curb money laundering and terrorism financing. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper. Secret agents to spy on state officials' accounts. That tough new rules meant to curb money laundering and terrorism financing. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper. You can take a look at that story on page 4 and 5. Ruto, Raila teams clash over audit of 2022 general election. President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga's camps yesterday clashed over the audit of the 2022 general presidential election, with the ruling coalition calling for planners of the demos banned from election. That is what happened at the, well, they appeared separately before the National Dialogue Committee at the Bomas of Kenya. Okay, 586,000 posts up for grabs as Ruto party gear up for grassroots polls. The Secretary General of the party, Cleophas Malala, has been on the drive for party membership. Kenya to get approved malaria vaccine in 2024. Jab was tested in 4,800 kids in Kenya, Burkina Faso, and Mali, as well as Tanzania. Ruto now orders ministries to cut budget by 10%. That is on the inner page of the Star newspaper. President William Ruto has directed ministries to cut their 2023-2024 budgets by 10% to align expenditures with available resources amidst the global economic stress. That is here. Okay. The secret agents to spy on top state officials accounts for dirty cash. That is the story fleshed out there for you on page 4 and 5. What Eastern and South Africa anti-money laundering report said about Kenya. It's also put there in pointers. You can take that story and look for it here. The situation here is you'll have to bear with the situation because of money laundering and terrorism. That is what is here. So, Mheshimiwa, let me start with you, Sosion. Secret agents to spy on state officials' accounts is also meant to curb money laundering and terrorism financing. What do you make of that headline, as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. In strong governance systems where people declare wealth, you declare what you have, and there would be nothing absolutely wrong with checking the account portfolios of state officers to monitor movement of money that may be related to corruption. Because it's common knowledge that the practice of corruption, bribery, and movement of money is executed by those with authority in government offices. So if the anti-corruption framework requires that the officers who can monitor the account and declare the sources of funds, so be it. And this is a practice in countries that have brought corruption completely to zero. And if, for example, I was in Saudi Arabia, and all accounts are monitored for any public worker, the moment there is strange inflow of cash, then that is picked by the anti-corruption radar, and that account stands automatically frozen and audited. It's audited. You audit and check what has happened.
Right.
Now, Kenya Kwanza administration has made it very clear, and you've seen the head of public service conduct meetings and emphasize on the need for fidelity in governance and avoiding corruption. This country is not going to be governed, the economy cannot be turned around when the vice of corruption shall still be in practice and being abated by public officers. It is not going to work. The economy will not be turned around. And the president said 3 things. That is only 3 things. You go to jail, leave the country, or go to heaven on matters of gods and lords of corruption in this country. To me, anything that is going to deter corruption activities, including monitoring of accounts of public officers, is okay. It's what has been practiced in jurisdictions that have succeeded to bring corruption to zero. I was in Malaysia in 2007 on a visit when I was a member of the National Committee of Constituency Development Fund. We had gone for a benchmarking, and I learned that in Malaysia, anything to do with corruption is punished by death, death sentence. The Asian tigers, they've used death sentence as a deterrent to persons involved in corruption.
Yeah.
So really, when you talk of monitoring somebody's account, that of course may not be a very strong way of stopping corruption, but it's good to know that other countries, they've made it a capital offense.
But the question is there resolve to fight money laundering? That's the question. It's been a debate over the years.
It must be fought. Money laundering is a criminal action that will undermine and sabotage the economy. And money laundering is movement of illicit money. You know the wash.
Yeah.
Wash is money laundering, and it must be fought because we must run a decent economy.
Yeah.
What Chief Justice Mutunga said one time, that we are running a banditry economy. Banditry. That means we abet money laundering, we abet corruption, we abet different things. So money laundering is a criminal action that should be fought.
I remember this a few years ago. There was a team which was formed to look into the issue of money laundering and such kinds of crimes. But there are two questions. There is that bit of structures put in place to curb money laundering, and another question is willingness. So the team is formed here, but now the structure is formed, but the question is willingness to curb the vice. Where do we have that equilibrium point where the structures and the willingness meet at that junction?
Now, you heard the other day the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua talking about streamlining the coffee sector and removing the cartels and allowing the farmers to, through their cooperatives, to market their coffee anywhere in the world and bypass this group called cartels. Cartels are very vicious outfits, shadowy. They never come out. You don't see them. And cartels will fight every infrastructure of transparency. And they will fight back. We've seen these cartels in the coffee sector. They're trying to fight back.
Yes.
But who is on the forefront trying to streamline the coffee sector? It is the Deputy President of the Republic. But still they have audacity to fight back. We saw in the sugar industry, cartels fighting back. And with this one of money laundering, the issue of structures and willingness, they will always ensure that there are no structures so that they can have a good business environment for their dirty work. And when you see no willingness to implement, it means the cartels have taken control. These cartels can remove zealous Kenyans and zealous workers who are determined to fight corruption.
Okay.
They will remove you from office.
Exactly.
They will slow down the process.
Do you think the net should be and spread wider or cast wider? I mean, looking at the top government officials, what if it's done by some secret places, quote unquote, the common mwananchi down there, you know, the handlers? Part of the structure also to cover everyone, because it's not only the top government officials who do the money laundering, quote unquote, but then now, don't you think that the net should be cast wider?
Yeah, all this is about determination in governance and leadership. And you had the president pronounce himself. And immediately pronounced himself, you saw the sugar barons withdraw the court cases that was stopping the revival of the sugar sector. All we need is leadership. Everything is all about leadership. once the leadership has defined itself and pronounced itself, all these other networks will definitely collapse. You heard of an individual who was at the Ministry of Roads and Public Works who could not be transferred and was minting millions of shillings and running deals. That is how bad cartels have occupied strategic economic areas of interest in the economy. And it's everywhere. You get to every line ministry. They are there. They are everywhere. And so the resolve to eliminate this and run a governance where public officers and those involved and accounting officers are operating above board is the way to go. And I think this is a message that the head of public service has been emphasizing. So it's all about leadership. If given a responsibility to lead a small unit, do you abet corruption? From the smallest level, that of, say, for example, a school and a small government office, before you get to the top tier management level, at the different tiers of governance and management. Of course, and all this, because we are in a complex economy where the private sector interacts with the public sector. Are we able to weed out and eliminate all this with determination, both in the public and private sector, and generally in our economy? So that we run an economy of equity, an economy of equal opportunities for everyone. Otherwise, everyone will have a culture of shortcuts, get rich quick, and we have seen in as a teacher, we have seen in careers of youngsters. You get the youngsters, they want shortcuts. They're thinking of getting shortcuts of how to make quick money all of a sudden. Which at the end of the day becomes very expensive. Everything is gradual. We need to strengthen values and value systems within citizens. And we live in a country that is with zero tolerance of corruption and a country of opportunities, equal opportunities for everyone, and people know as long as I work hard, I'll be rewarded and I'll live well. All right. But in a situation where shortcuts are glorified and those who don't work hard at all get it all, those who work hard get nothing, then it becomes a bigger complex within the society. But the question of fighting corruption in the country, we are able to create an economy of equity for everyone, and where every citizen is able to get the very basic services, and those who work hard and labor for whatever they do are rewarded, then we'll have a good economy. All right. As long as there is we are in 2023, inequality. We are in 2023 and we are still talking about the fight against corruption. I mean, money laundering is part of corruption. Even the next 100 years, people will be fighting corruption. The next 200 years, people will be fighting corruption. Then we should stop talking about it then. Corruption did not start yesterday. Then we should stop talking about it. It is historical. And look for other means of battling our own fights and our wars, you know. We should only be bold enough and adopt stringent measures of fighting corruption. It must be punished. You've talked about the Asian tigers. It must be properly criminalized. Exactly. You've talked about the Asian tigers. If you don't criminalize, the way they combat their corruption cases. If you don't criminalize and punish corruption very heavily, who does it will be difficult. Who has the power to do that? It's you and I. It's you and I. You've talked about the Asian tigers. It is all of us. And their powers and their legal strengths and strategies to fight corruption. And it's working for them. Why not us? Yeah, it is working. It is working. If I can talk about what I have seen myself, experiencing the Malaysian economy. We walked to the Ministry of Health and a whole ministry, a whole building is located, say, 10 kilometers out of the city. And you have a whole government ministry, offices, and we have residence for the staff of the ministry. And they dress in uniform. You're going to the office, you dress in standard uniform. And you walk throughout. When it is lunch time, there's common lunch within the office. And that's a culture. And I established that Malaysia, there's a lot of food.
Yes.
And people eat well. And the problem in Malaysia is obesity, because there's plenty of food and people are eating extremely well, because that is an economy that has been well taken care of. And when I look at the Malaysian healthcare system, there are no private hospitals in Malaysia, because all government medical facilities are ensured that there are enough drugs and there are qualified medical personnel. And the healthcare system is so strong. I don't think that even insurance, these medical insurance schemes, these insurance schemes is another form of money laundering. If you are unable to provide medical facilities and medical doctors and finance using government resources, then insurances cannot be an option.
Yeah.
That's where you see so much insurance, then it means that is an economy that has not established its healthcare system very well. And I looked at the organization of ministries, walked to the Ministry of Education. It's also isolated separately, complete. In fact, the residential quarters, the minister lives at the top, and the rest of the staff, they live together up to the ground floor, and they walk straight to the office where they work. And you look at the work ethics, where they live and where they go and work, and the work ethics is intensive extra commitment, because every ministry has got a 5-year strategic plan.
Okay.
And every strategic plan is reviewed midway. And in the midterm review, you look at the gaps, whether it's shortage of funds, and if it is shortage of funds, they will mobilize funds from the private sector. And
let's take a break.
Strategic plan is a must implement.
Okay.
So other than the work ethics and the governance culture, corruption is criminalized. Let's criminalized with punishment,
let's take a break.
With death.
And we come back.
Until and unless we agree in Kenya that we are criminalizing and severely punishing corruption. Then we'll continue talking.
Let's take a break. When you come back, you heard of Origi girls, the mysterious disease that struck over the week yesterday. By yesterday evening, 95 of the students were taken ill of a mysterious kind of disease that broke out at Origi girls. That is Western Origi girls, that's students, 95 of them. We'll take a look at that. And if at all you have some contact with them, what is the situation? You must be having a 1 or 2 from Origi. We'll talk about that when we come back with Mr. Association here in studio. Stay with us.
Your Honor. This man's a criminal and the whole town knows it. Your Honor, I'm not going to let him take my son.
My answer is no, no, and no. I won't do that.
And about the 2 of us? I think this is impossible. It's madness.
No.
Forget about it.
The only thing that I can tell you is that the bull was not there by accident. What did you do in the end? You kissed him, right?
I'm done being your wife. Right now, what I want is a divorce.
You mean I'm mooching
watching off you. Every time you bought something, I did the same for you. Also, you didn't pay for the gifts I bought for them, did you?
Even if you are rich, you are nothing without a family. You get that?
Hello?
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation. Upper KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Basi karibu tujifunze. Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
challenges and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
And you have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
And welcome back. Okay, so on the front page of the Daily Nation here, very quickly, Ruto reverses Uhuru 6 billion shillings telecom payout. Ruto reverses Uhuru 6 billion shillings telecom payout. The Kenya Kwanza government yesterday overturned a decision by the Uhuru Kenyatta administration to purchase a 60% stake in Telkom Kenya, just days to the 2022 general election, and directed UK private investment fund Helios and its Kenyan affiliate Jamhuri Holdings to refund the money paid for the acquisition. That is a story on page 7. You can take a look at that. Kenya Kwanza Azimio clash over IEBC and poll audit. President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga have once again clashed over the reconstitution of the electoral agency and a demand for an audit of the last year's presidential election results. While Mr. Odinga's team insisted on a forensic audit to establish the truth about the 2022 general election, the president's side said the Supreme Court's ruling was final. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. And Mwalimu, before we took a break, panic as 95 students at Erege Girls are taken ill. Mysterious disease breaks out at school. That's a story that is all over. Perhaps what do we say about this? If you have any information about this. It said that a majority of the students who are affected are in Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3, and the disease actually paralyzed their limbs, and the number rose to 95 after some of the 33 cases were registered. And these 62 students, as per the information, were admitted to various hospitals on Monday evening after they developed the illness.
If you look at that number 95, right, and who may require admission and medical attention, then it can stress a single medical facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a light occurrence. However, much the disease has not been diagnosed and established.
Yeah.
And I think that should be left to the medical experts to swing into action and ensure we don't have any student dying whatsoever. I'm sure the ministry is on this.
Exactly.
The CS should be on it, because we don't want to get cases like we had in the, was it Lugulu Girls or Butere Girls?
Yeah, Butere Girls.
Yes, where students died one after the other.
Mukumu Girls.
I don't think.
Mukumu Girls.
Yeah, Mukumu Girls.
Right. Bigger pardon.
So I don't think it should get to that level. If indeed it's reassuring that the 95 of them are receiving medical attention. Absolutely. That's the most important thing. And I believe with time we'll be getting to the bottom of the truth, because you cannot do guesswork. If it is a disease, then they must engage in diagnostic steps through the necessary analysis and tests in the lab. So I'm sure this is an issue that will be managed by the medical personnel and the school administration, and with close supervision of the Ministry of Education and the Ministries of Health.
And the county government of Kakamega. Okay. What do you make of this headline? Ruto reverses Uhuru 6 billion shillings telecom payout. If you can, kindly.
We've just been discussing about corruption. When you have leadership that promotes deliberate blunder of national resources, then it's a wrong thing. Why was this payout authorized so quickly and towards the end of the tail end of Uhuru administration without approval of parliament and without approval of anyone, and paid out to individuals out of the country, the Helios and Jamhuri holdings, of course having received some billions of shillings. This indeed was scandalous, open theft of public resources. This was a classic case of theft. And if it is theft, it must be stopped. And those who stole the money must bring back the money. I think this is what Cabinet has decided, this is what the President has directed. It's prudent to protect public resources. You are aware, the last few days of Uhuru administration, they even spent a budget of 200 and something billion shillings without approval of Parliament. You remember the Comptroller and Auditor General being compelled to authorize withdrawal of 16 billion shillings within 26 minutes. You know, it is very easy to steal from the public if you are in authority. If you are in authority, it's easy to steal with from the public. So the telecom saga was not actually normal purchase. It was a conduit to siphon money out of the economy. And that is money belonging to Kenyans. And that was digging more holes to complicate the economy. I remember in the financial year 2020-2021, an allocation of 1 billion shillings to retool teachers on competency-based curriculum was approved by Parliament in the month of June. And by early July, that vote had been cleared to TSC and 700 million cutted away by individuals in government. It ended up in pockets. It never ended up with the training of teachers. And in fact, if we are to discuss this misuse of public resources, those which are known to some of us and to many of us and to the media, and to everyone, then you'll feel very sorry for this economy. This economy has been very resilient and it has been under savage attack from corruption. So the president has responsibility to reverse and stop anything that was illegal and that which was against Kenyans. The president has the solemn duty of protecting the resources and the wealth of the people of Kenya. And if it was stolen, it must be brought back. Anything that was done illegally must be undone. And anyone who took away public money must return.
Let's talk about the front page of the Standard very quickly. Ruto, Raila, clash of ideas at dialogue meeting. That is happening at the Bomas of Kenya. Ruto, Raila, clash of ideas at dialogue meeting. Azimio and Kenya Kwanza yesterday differed on Kenya's future and how to resolve electoral injustices when they submitted their views to the National Dialogue Committee. Government side wants nothing to do with an audit of last year's election, whereas the opposition still insists that it won and a review is needed. Very quickly and finally, on the front page of the People Daily, the Kenya we want, key political protagonists and civil society propose constitutional and administrative reforms that could radically alter the country's governance structure. One of them, as per the Azimio, they said that the last presidential election must be audited, IEBC service opened. Number two, political parties must be involved in hiring polls agency. And thirdly, Jubilee remains an Azimio party, poaching of MPs from opposition coalition, illegal violation of party discipline. Moving on, what did the NCCK say? They want the Review Finance Act of 2023 to reduce the tax burden imposed on the ordinary people. Number 2, executive and parliament should stop disregarding court orders and desist from disparaging the judiciary. And finally, urgently appoint IBC to avert constitutional crisis. And finally, what did the Kenya Kwanza submit? Entrench the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Number 2, establish Ward Development Fund to empower members of County Assembly. And finally, pass legislation to regulate the right to demonstration and picketing to bar political leaders from violent protest. It must have been a very busy day at the Bomas of Kenya. Sosion.
Yeah, of course, those are very extensive submissions. And those are submissions. But the issue of auditing 2022 elections.
Yes.
The team at Bomas cannot whatsoever authorize any form of audit by anybody of 2022 elections by procedures of the Constitution and the law. The only thing they need to do is to ensure that IBC is urgently constituted. And once IBC is constituted, the IBC will audit the process of 2022 elections.
Right.
Yeah. So the question is, who is mandated to audit according to the law and the provisions of the law? It is the IBC. IBC is not in place. We don't have a chair and we don't have commissioners. And that indeed is an existing constitutional crisis. According to me, by now, the reconstitution process of IBC should have been concluded by that team if they are going to do it. If they are unable to do it, then the president should be left to proceed and invoke the provisions of the law and continue triggering the process as the current law provides to establish IBC and ensure appointment of a chair and commissioners within the shortest time possible, because there are 2 constituencies without members of parliament. And of course, there are a lot of by-election that is also preparation for 2027. And this question of audit, you cannot put the cart before the horse. And I think what Asimio people are trying to do is to derail and bastardize the process at Bomas so that nothing is achieved and cause more confusion and sabotage the government from orderly governance and orderly execution of certain important functions. So
what about the political parties to be involved in hiring polls agency?
IBC should be constituted as early as yesterday.
What about the inclusion of political parties in picking of the poll agency? What do you think of that?
Then IBC will cease to be independent. We cannot go back and tell us that, we did the IPPG in 1997 and therefore it resulted in peaceful elections in 2002. 2002, the political ecosystem in 2002 is that there was more unity within the country. The social pressure groups in the country, trade unions and the rest. I was there myself and we were focused and we told the opposition, get one presidential candidate and we shall support that person. And they did it. So really,
looking at the entities, just a minute, looking at the entities
after 2010, look at the curricular report, look at everything after 2010.
Looking at the entities needed, we have got the political parties, we need the churches, we have got the legal fraternity, like the Law Society of Kenya. They also want their hand in picking of the poll agency. That won't render IBC independent.
It is not going to render IBC independent if you admit political parties to participate in appointment of...
How should it be done?
Already, there's a selection panel. The selection panel determines who sits in that panel. And of course, there's representation of Law Society of Kenya, the churches, and that has been determined. So what the bipartisan team at Bomas should be able to do, if at all they have to pick and develop the criteria of establishing a selection panel. It is a selection panel that will conduct the process. And if they think the political party should be members of that selection panel, then I don't think it's going to render the constitutional independence of IEBC nugatory.
Okay.
And we have to look at the procedures of appointing chairs and commissioners of constitutional commissions. Those selection panels ought to be as independent as much as possible and should have no link with the political parties. IBC is not the only constitutional commission among the Chapter 15 commissions. There are many commissions: Public Service Commission, Teacher Service Commission, Kenya Human Rights Commission, and several others. And the statute or the law of the establishment of selection panel is always clearly indicated, and it doesn't have to be linked with the political parties. Having been the Secretary General NAT, I knew within the selection panel of the Teacher Service Commission commissioners,
yes,
we could forward a representative as a union, but not a union official. But we could identify a very independent representative.
Yeah.
So the spirit of constitutional commissions in our constitution was supposed to be independent as much as possible. Even members of the selection panel should not be partisan. If you are a leader of a political party, an official of a political party, then it will be construed that you will be conflicted. There's what we call conflict of interest, because you are creating a body that is going to determine election of the members of your party.
Okay.
Then the question begs, how many, who will forward the representation of political parties? Because there are many political parties. I think generally it goes against the independence. Let us guard the independence of the body, IEBC.
All right.
Because if we don't get an independent commission from the independent members of the selection panel, so that it leads to independent appointment of the chair of IEBC and commissioners, then we are brewing confusion around 2027 elections.
Okay, thank you.
So it must be above board.
Okay, let's take a look at something here that is actually on people have been talking about. Ruto's big gamble in Haiti. That's on the front page of the Star People Daily. Ruto's big gamble in Haiti. That is on the second page. UN gives nod to Kenyan-led mission to Haiti. However, Russia and China, who was abstained from voting on the issue, are concerned by rules of engagement and exit strategy. That is the issue here. And it continues to say that what are some of the grave issues that various players, including experts on security and international relations, have raised issues concerning the planned security mission in Haiti. Number two, that they include viability and success of the mission in a country lacking a stable democratic government. And finally, that of great concern also is parameters of the officers' investment, exit strategy, and their level of preparedness. Now, that is also fleshed out there for you very quickly as we talk on that is on the East African. UN Security Council authorizes Kenya, others to deploy police to Haiti. That is, as far as that's concerned, it's a country that has been riddled with a lot of protests for a very long time. And says that UN Security Council on Monday night endorsed the deployment of multinational security support, also abbreviation MSS, mission to Haiti, paving the way for countries such as Kenya to send their pledged armed personnel to the Caribbean country. The resolution 2699 of 2023 was endorsed by 13 of the 15-member council, including Africa's representatives, that is Mozambique, Ghana, Gabon, and now authorizes the deployment of a mission that had raised controversy on its legality in Kenya. But now, the issue is that it's drafted by the US and endorsed by Ecuador and it needs the validation of all permanent members of the Council, including the US, France, UK, Russia, and China. A lot of questions have been put forward, Mr. Sossion, whether Kenya is going to strike that final strike where others have failed. As far as this is concerned, 1,000 police officers are meant to be sent to Haiti to support and Kenya to lead that mission. Your take?
Yeah, I think this is a big sacrifice to assist the people of Haiti to bring order, because the data that is out there is that the lawlessness in Haiti has caused a lot of human suffering. Children can no longer go to school. They are out of school in their thousands, and they are unsure about their security. It's a very bad situation. Bad as it is, the commitment by Kenya to lead multinational, it's not only going to be Kenya.
Exactly.
It's multinational.
It's a multinational force.
And the voting by the UN Security Council means this then is an activity of the UN. It's a UN mission in Haiti. And being a UN mission fully supported by the UN, then it is in the best interest of the people of Haiti. And this, of course, has to be delivered. Though we saw China and others did not vote for it. Is it China and Russia who did not vote for it? Or they abstained? Abstaining is a different thing. But from the literature that we are reading is that they are not opposed to the mission in Haiti. And this is the first time in the history of our country that the police, the Kenya police, are leading a security operation outside the country. It's the first time. We've had the Kenya Army doing very well. They were in Yugoslavia. They were in Namibia. They've been in Somalia. Now they're in DR Congo. And our security might has been tested. We have one of the best military or the armed forces, for that matter. And the police, we have one of the most professional police in the world. And our personnel leading this mission is a good thing. It's a sacrifice. Yeah, it's not an easy thing.
But the
question
no walk
is,
in the park. The question is how Kenya is going to tackle this. Many countries have failed, and Haiti have faced a lot of turmoil for a very long time. Criminal gangs, oppression and
police. Police are trained to deal with criminals and lawlessness. They're trained. They're skilled. You and I are not policemen. You are a media person. You are trained in media. I am a teacher. I'm trained in teaching, and if called upon to perform a duty related to my training, that is teaching, I will be able to do it. And you cannot doubt the success of what I'll do as a teacher, and I cannot doubt the success of what you'll do as a journalist. And so why should we doubt the capability of our police officers? We cannot doubt. And they're not going to work alone. It's a team of multinationals and working under the UN. So I'm sure with good coordination and good support, then they will be able to succeed. I think what is important is to support our men and women and all those they're working with from the various countries to ensure that order is restored in Haiti. So what does it really mean to Kenya? We don't need to fear how many gangs are in the streets, how many gangs are existing.
Kenya is leading the multinational force, of course. So what does it really mean to the country? I mean, 1,000 police officers to be sent in Haiti.
Yeah, what it means is that Kenya has one of the best capabilities in security operations, and they can succeed where none has succeeded. Kenya succeeded in Somalia, where nobody could I wouldn't say not even the US could have managed dealing with terrorist cells and of Al-Shabaab in Somalia. But our armament succeeded. So we've got the best, the best police officers, and let them go and try out there. And it's not a mission to test. That is not a mission to test. It is a mission to deliver. And not just to deliver, to ensure that there is law and order, and that even the police of Haiti can be trained so that they are able to internally contain and enforce law and order themselves.
Okay.
And the problem in Haiti is very complex. It doesn't stem from within. There could be external forces. Where are the guns coming from? And so those are matters to be dealt with. To me, I can only pray and wish our 1,000 police officers all the best wish them well, and ensure that the mission in Haiti is accomplished. I've interacted with Haiti teachers. I've got very many friends in the Caribbean and among teachers, and some of these things are hurting.
Thank you.
Really hurting.
Thank you.
We need the children of Haiti to go back to school.
Thank you.
We need law and order so that livelihoods of the people of Haiti can be fulfilled in peace and in an environment of good law and order.
Thank you.
And if that is going to be delivered by the Kenya police, then so be it.
All right. Okay, that's we can also wish them the best. Thank you as well. 1,000 officers to be sent in Haiti. The president delivered his speech and said that he's okay with the decision. That was also sanctioned by the UN. Kenya is a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. We are waiting to see how this is going to be. They have got a 1-year mandate to be in Haiti to restore order in that troubled Caribbean country. All right, my name is Victor Lo. Thank you so much for joining us. Walimu Wilson Sosion here with the CS, as well as former NAT Secretary General. Asante sana for joining us on the show. An apology from the Deputy Governor of Machakos. He got a quick engagement somewhere. That's why he could not make it on the show. But you know, he's always here with us. All right, so we'll forgive him for that. All right, thank you so much for joining us, and have a good morning. Bye-bye for now.
Off you. Every time you bought something, I did the same for you. Also, you didn't pay for the gifts I bought for them, did you?
Even if you are rich, you are nothing without a family. You get that?
Hello?
Serikali ya kaunti ya Turkana ya kualika kwenye kitovu cha utamaduni cha Ekales, eneo la Lodwa, kwa makala ya 7 ya tamasha ya utamaduni wa Turkana na utalii. Tangia tarehe 12 hadi tarehe 14 mwezi Oktoba mwaka 2023. Njoo ujionee asili ya binadamu pamoja na visima vya mafuta vya Lokichar. Kenye kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1, Radio Taifa na idhaa ya Kiturukana.
Nini mnaenda kukamua ng'ombe za shule? Mnanyonya matiti ya ng'ombe. Nani anafanyanga hivi?
Nilipwa na mtoto kidogo, wewe ujifanye baba yake.
Ukanipatia pesa mimi. Nenda hiyo.
Mimi si mwalimu.
Basi hapa ya ng'ombe ya ndama ndio hiyo sasa. Wait. Since when did you teach your baby to come to kunyonya the matiti ya ng'ombe. When? Oh, if I put it, let me tell you, I'm a baby face, my friend. Mtu mwingine anafanana na hiyo sura.
Sura yako siwezi sahau.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe, and we are going to talk about an interesting topic, and it revolves around El Nino, and today, and it concerns building and construction. The topic is building regulations during El Nino, and in studio with me is registered contractor Ronald Wanyoike to help me with this conversation. Karibu sana bwana Wanyoike.
Thank you so much, Mike Migwe.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good.
Yes.
And I appreciate the invitation.
Yes.
And I believe we are going to discuss the topic.
Yes.
Give our Kenyan people the insight that they require. And where need be, I'm very sure we are going to move together.
Yes.
And we are going to change our country.
Good.
There is a lot that is happening.
Yes.
And it is shaping the country in the right way.
Yes.
As matters construction is concerned.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, let's get into it. Now, what specific challenges does El Nino pose to the building and construction industry in Kenya with regard to safety and the safety and infrastructure?
Well, Nino, as much as we know, El Nino are likely to be heavy rains,
yes,
which comes within a shorter duration.
Yes.
And the prediction is El Nino is going to happen, or we are going to have the rains between the month of October and early December.
Yes.
When we have a heavy downpour within a particular duration, and you don't have proper infrastructure, we are very sure, or we are certain that there is likely that we are going to have a lot of damages to our structures. If, for example, you have a house which doesn't have a proper foundation, and the area happen to have been soaked with a lot of water, chances are the house is likely to collapse. Just as it happened with our roads. When the roads are made and then the drainage is not okay, they develop a lot of potholes. So those are some of the challenges which we are likely to face as far as the El Nino rains are concerned. For the purpose of mitigations of the El Nino rains and the damages, those who are still building, and if you have an old house, it is the high time that we are supposed to improve them, their drainage, if we are going to mitigate the damages which are likely to come across, or we are likely to come across because of the effect of the El Nino rains.
Yes.
So one of the mitigating factors is we need to ensure that we have proper drainage system, because that is the only thing which is going to save our houses.
Yes.
It's going to save us from a lot of economic losses. And those who are building, we need to follow the regulations as they are laid out by the National Construction Authority, those which are laid out by the county government.
Yes.
And anything that is supposed to mitigate any constraint within our environment, any disaster within our country, we need to follow the regulation in the best way possible for the interest of our country and the interest of our people.
Talk about how regulations, how building regulations have evolved to address risks associated not only with El Nino, but extreme weather conditions.
Now, our country has come from very far.
Yes.
Because before the year 2011, we didn't have proper regulations.
Yes.
What we had was if you are to build a house, you're only supposed to visit the county government offices. By then, we didn't have the county government. We only had the counties.
Yes.
So you are supposed to be licensed or regulated by them. But with the involving with the parliament by then, and came up with an act of parliament which brought about the presence of the National Construction Authority. National Construction Authority, NCA, is a very important body because this is the body which ensures there is safe and healthy building sector. Because they are supposed to coordinate, they regulate, and they build the capacity for the construction industry. if we adhered within the policies of the national construction authorities, we are not likely to have a lot of challenges.
Yes.
But I would say the National Construction Authority has done a lot of work since its inception. If you are a registered contractor, at least every year you are supposed to attend a workshop. And within the workshop, they will disseminate information to everybody on some of the challenges which the industry is facing and how we are supposed to tackle these particular challenges.
Is this workshop a mandatory, a must-attend event?
The workshops are a must-attend event for every registered contractor.
Okay.
Because if you don't attend these particular workshops, how are you going to run about the dynamics of the construction industry?
Okay.
You will never be able to run. You will never even be able to know what it entails within the regulation of the National Construction Authority. So it is a must-attend event, and it is supposed to be annual. And for you to have your license renewed, they must have the information that you attended.
Yes.
Like, just like in the Law Society of Kenya. If you are practicing as a lawyer, then you must have the practicing certificate. If you are a doctor, you must have the practicing certificate. So likewise, for contractors, you must have the practicing license from the National Construction Authority. So when a workshop is called upon, or you are called upon to attend a workshop, you have to. Because that is what gives you an authority to build. Yes.
Now, the meteorological department has highlighted some areas like Nakuru, Kisumu, Homa Bay as some of the areas that are vulnerable to the effects of El Nino. So, are there regulations, in your own view, that Kenyans need to know about, building regulations that Kenyans need to know about, especially in these areas that have been highlighted as high risk areas when El Nino comes?
That's a very good question, and I think it's also diverse. There may not be specific regulation that Kenyans are supposed to be aware of, and there could also be some specific regulation that they should be aware of. For example, everybody should be aware that you should never put up a house without an approval. An approval from the county government, an approval from the National Environment Management Authority, that is NEMA, and an approval from the National Construction Authority. The three entities are the bodies which are supposed to regulate construction in this particular country.
Yes.
But before you seek an approval from the county government, the first step is a developer will have to engage an architect who comes up with a design.
Yes.
When the initial design is crafted by an architect, it's supposed to be handed over to the engineer, who comes up with the structural design. And now with the architectural and the structural design, that is what you submit to the county government for approval.
Okay.
The team or the technical committee within the county government is supposed to see whether the drawings are fitting or they are within, or if you're building in Nakuru, Kisumu and other places, there is the soil profile in those particular areas. The technical committee, because most of the members of those technical committees are from those specific areas, they are supposed to discern and get to know whether those houses, according to the design, can withhold any environmental disaster. If we obeyed what the engineers have advised us to do, then we are not likely to have challenges. But unfortunately, in most cases, you find that the developer and the contractor may not necessarily adhere to those particular regulations. And why do they divert from the regulations? It's very simple. It is the economic constraint and the finance. When you design a drawing, when you design a house, the last person who is supposed to see the house design is a quantity surveyor. He'll give you the figures that you are supposed to use. If you have a house which is supposed to use about 20 million, and in your pocket you have about 12 or 10, in most cases you find the developer and the contractor hacking, maybe trying to do it in the wrong way. But we would blame the developer. And that is why, even when a house collapses, the government may not go looking for anybody else. They look for two people. They look for the developer and the contractor. because these are the people who have evaded the law. They are the people who have ensured that the law have not been followed. They are the people who have made the building to collapse.
Yes.
And actually, if you are a developer, if you intend to build, and you don't do it in the right way, the foodies will never be arrested. Yes. Actually, you are supposed to account for them.
Yes.
You are supposed to compensate them.
Yes.
The person who will be arrested by the government, it's you, the developer. And it is you that they are going to charge in the court of law. And it is you who is going to the jail. Other people will not see the inside of a jail. Because at the end of the day, when a development is, when the National Construction Authority register a project,
yes,
the project is registered with due diligence. They know what the structural design was, what the structural design was, and what was the quantity. What amount of money were you supposed to use when you're implementing the project?
Does it also speak to the quality of materials that you are going to use?
Actually, some of the causes why houses collapse is because of the quality of the materials. If you use raw quality materials, the building is likely not to hold. If, for example, if you're building a 10-story building, of course, you should have high quality steel in the foundation. If you have a raw quality steel in the foundation, instead of using D20 or any other heavy quality steel, you're using a D12. Chances are you're likely to have that house coming down. And if you have the house coming down, it simply means the contractor and the developer did not follow what they were advised to do by the engineer. And in most cases, that is why you find in our society we have houses which are coming down because we are not adhering to the advice that we were given.
Yes.
And there are a lot of loopholes,
yes,
and of course everybody tries to use those particular loopholes, yes, for their benefits. But those benefits, I would simply say, they are short-lived. For the contractor, we are finding ourselves between a rock and a hard place. You want a project because you also want to be in business. The developer wants a project and he wants you to implement it in his own way. So in most cases, you get yourself implementing the project as per the developer's advice and not as per the professional advice which you got from the architect, which you got from the structural engineer, which you got from the quantity surveyor, and which you also got from the authorities which oversees construction, which is the National Construction Authority, when they were doing the due diligence, when they visited the site.
So it would point out that in some cases we do not follow rules, regulations.
In most cases, we are human beings. And human being, we are wired in a very different way. If you are given an opportunity not to follow regulations, and there are no consequences, we would all do that. But it is also important for people to know that in most cases, when the houses collapse, there is no premeditation. Nobody would build a house expecting them to come down.
Yes.
But because of our human nature of ensuring that cost-cutting measures,
yes,
that is what leads us towards that particular direction. If we do not try to come up with cost-cutting measures, we are likely to have a proper, effective construction industry, proper, effective buildings, and we would have a society in a very cohesive way in matters construction is concerned.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about government oversight. In your own view, oversight and enforcement, how has the government fared in enforcing building regulations?
I would give my government a thumbs up, especially the National Construction Authority, because they have ensured that they have field officers in every county,
yes,
and in every sub-county. At least you get, in every sub-county, there are at least 2 field officers. So if we have 230 sub-counties within our country, that is the number of the people that we have on the ground. One of the reasons why people are able to build structures or build them in the wrong way is because if we don't have a a supervisory department, or we don't have a body which is or maybe if a National Construction Authority do not have enough workforce, that would simply mean we do not have proper inspection of our buildings.
Yes.
It is a challenge which is within our country, but I'm very sure this is something that the government is going to overcome. Because when an economy is developing, that is when you're able to have to create more employment, to ensure that there is proper supervision, proper management, and proper implementation of policies, because you'll have people to ensure that those policies are adhered to. Those policies are implemented. So it is a teething problem, but we are coming out of it.
Yes.
You remember yesterday, the National Construction Authority had a road show.
Yes.
And they have been going to the people. Yes. They have been visiting sites.
Yes.
In most of the, not in most of, at least 80% of the projects that I'm doing, I've had visitors from the National Construction Authority. I've had the project registered by the National Construction Authority. So, and not just myself, even other contractors, they would attest to you that the National Construction Authority have become very effective. And it is becoming effective as time evolves. Because the way it was yesterday is not the way it is today. They have more field officers, they have been more vigilant, and they are working effectively. We may, if it's in matter of rating, I would give them 8 out of 10. That would say they are doing a very effective job.
Yes.
Yes. In every organization, you will find a few people who are not doing the right way.
Yes.
But I'm very sure as we move on, they are going to comply.
Yes. Let's talk about collaboration between government agencies, engineers, contractors, and all the stakeholders in the building and construction industry. How can this collaboration enhance better synergy to ensure that before El Nino comes, there are safer and resilient construction practices?
There is a lot of collaboration between the national government and the county governments, and even the police force.
Yes.
Because the police are the people who are supposed to maintain the law and order. Initially, or when I started construction, the police used not to be involved.
Okay.
Today, if an officer from the National Construction Authority comes to your site and give you a notice that you should stop construction, he is going to serve the OCS of the nearest police station, so that if you continue with your construction, the OCS will have you arrested. You should continue with your construction when you comply. If you are, maybe perhaps, if you have not registered the project, you have had the approval from the from the county government, you have had the approval from NEMA, but you have not registered your project with the National Construction Authority. The National Construction Authority have a right to come and stop the construction. If you don't stop the construction, they'll serve that notice that they served you with to the police department within that locality. And the police will have no alternative, or otherwise they'll have to arrest you so that they can stop. And they can also charge you in the court of law. I remember some time back, 2 years ago, there was a building which was being carried out at, I think it was in Westrad.
Yes.
They had not complied with the National Environment Management Authority regulations. They were arrested. They were arraigned in the court of law, and they were fined heavily.
Wow.
That simply means our country is evolving, and we are now doing things in the right way.
So there is that synergy between
There is
agencies.
a lot of synergy.
Yes.
I think 3 weeks ago, there have been a lot of inspection of construction in areas like Kericho, within Nairobi, within Kiambu, and Uasin Gishu.
Yes.
But Kiambu is one of the area where there is a lot of inspection, because we have had a lot of disasters.
Yes,
within
cases have been seen there,
you remember in places like Kirigiti, in places like Kiambu town.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, today if you are building and you are doing it in Kiambu, you have to follow the regulation.
Yes.
And any other place within our country. If you go to Muranga, the same. And there is a lot of synergy. The three bodies are operating very well.
Yes.
The National Construction Authority, NEMA, and the county government, as far as the matters approvals are concerned, as far as the matters implementations of the project is concerned.
Yes.
And I would tell you that although it is an evolving process, it is evolving in the right way, and we are heading in the right direction. And in the next 2-3 years, we are not likely to have these disasters, not unless they are very natural. The El Nino, the El Nino issue that is we are facing now, I would say there is a lot of preparedness. The disaster management bodies within our countries have been put into a rut.
Yes.
And these bodies are doing what is supposed to be done. For example, if you cite regions like Nairobi, where we have the governor for Nairobi, His Excellency Mr. Sakaja, he has commissioned people to ensure that there is proper drainage within the city. And that is one of the major factors which is going to mitigate disasters. And it is one of the factors, if it is implemented in the best way possible, we are not likely to have a lot of disaster, because we need to ensure that storm water flows and it flows to the river or where it is not going to cause any damage within our infrastructural setup.
Yes. Let's talk about the place of technology in building and construction. Have there been any advancement in technology that have enhanced building better structures that can withstand El Nino and any other extreme weather conditions?
Yes, technology has really helped, because I would say in the initial stages, people are not, most of the work was supposed to be manual.
Yes.
With the evolving of technology, there is a lot of mechanization. With the proper mechanization, if we use the mechanization in the right way, we are going to have better buildings. I remember some time back, people are not concrete setups were done manually. Today it's supposed to be done using machines. People are not checking the levels of the moisture in their concrete. Today you are supposed to do the same, because the technology has come and it has helped us do the right thing in construction industry. The way we have been dealing with the construction before is not the way we are dealing with the construction today. If you are to have a concrete slab within maybe a setup, an area of about a quarter an acre, before you do it in 2-3 days with a labor force of about 50 people. Today you can do it within 6 hours. With a labor force of 20 people, because there is mechanization. So technology has brought us advancement in matters construction, and we are also having better structures, which are even more firm than before.
Now, compliance to building regulations may seem as time-consuming endeavor. Why do those regulations exist?
Regulation exists so that we are able to have a safe health sector. If you don't regulate human being, even God himself had to regulate human being by giving them rules. If you don't regulate human being, you are likely to have a lot of disasters. For example, if you just allow contractors to do their work without regulations, I'm very sure they would also like to have their own cost-cutting measures so that they can make more profits.
And cost-cutting is one of the things that make people go against the rules.
That is one of the things which is bringing a lot of disaster. If a contractor is not properly supervised by the National Construction Authority and having a lot of visit from the county government, the inspectorate bodies and the enforcement bodies, we are likely to have a lot of problems in terms of having foundations which are not very strong. We are likely not to have proper structural design, because we may alter the design which have been approved by the county government. But if we are not to alter those particular design, then it would mean the county government has to keep on visiting these particular sites. We may end up using raw substandard building materials, or we may also have a lot of unethical practices within the construction industry.
Yes.
I would cite examples. Currently, the National Construction Authority is assuring that there is quality assurance. They are checking across the country by ensuring that they enhance the capacity of the contractor, they register the construction workers, and what they want us to do is, you do not need to hire workers who are not registered by the National Construction Authority because they don't have the capacity, they don't have the knowledge to implement whatever you are implementing.
So even the fundis must be cleared by the National Construction Authorities.
Currently, the National Construction Authority is clearing even the fundis. Wow. They are registering them.
Yes.
And actually, when you hire them, they are supposed to show you a badge from the National Construction Authority with their full details.
Yes.
So that you may have the right people.
But now, how do you ensure that that regulation is followed? Because let's go to the rural areas.
Yes.
You will find contractors wanajenga nyumba, but then some people there, they have experience, like someone will come and tell you niko na experience ya kujenga nyumba za mawe. How do you ensure, and how do you go about that?
Well, one of the things that we should all accept and acknowledge is that one may not necessarily be trained in a particular field for him to work in that particular field.
Okay.
And we don't need to equate that person to a quack.
Yes.
Because it is also be the wrong thing.
Yes.
We are not tapping talent sometimes because we are saying a particular individual is not qualified in that particular area.
Yes.
And that gives a limitation. In our traditional African society, people would do work.
Yes.
And how are they running the skills that they are using?
Yes.
They would run skills through enterpriseship.
Yes.
When you are trained by those who know, you are likely to acquire that particular skill and be able to perfect it. Most of those fundi in the rural areas, they have acquired the skills and they have perfected the skill. Some of them are very good, and those who are not good, they can always be improved.
Yes.
Construction industry is one of the industry which hires a lot of people. Actually, it creates a lot of employment.
Yes.
If you go to most of urban setups, most of the towns which are growing, you find that in most cases they employ at least 20% of the people who are within those particular areas. And those people who are usually employed in the construction industry are in most cases young graduates, people who have just graduated from Form 4, people who have graduated from colleges, people who have graduated from the universities in the initial stages before they settle, before they get their dream jobs, before they do what they want to do. In most cases, you find them being absorbed in the construction industry. Also, construction industry is a key employer. And that is why even the government is using construction industry to employ people. That's why we have the building, the housing, project.
Yes.
What is the purpose of a housing project? The purpose of a housing project is to make our economy grow. We move our economy. That's why you, Mr. Mike, you are being deducted 1.5% of your pay.
Yes.
And it is being hosted by the housing department.
It's housing, the housing levy.
The housing levy.
Yes.
How is the government supposed to use the housing levy? The government is used to use the housing levy to develop settlement for our people within the country. If you go to develop the world, for you to build, you need a mortgage. What do? They give a mortgage at very low rate.
Yes.
In our developing country, we are not likely to have those mortgage at that particular rate.
Yes.
That's why the government is developing a scheme which they can also use. These particular schemes, apart from solving the housing crisis, it is also solving the employment crisis. Because I've just told you that construction absorbs a lot of our people, both men and women. Before, people would imagine it is only men. Today it is both men and women. So you may not write off those people who may not have acquired skills properly, but they have acquired them as they were working. So, and that is what the National Construction Authority is doing. They'll come to your site. They'll get to inquire from you who is a fundi here and who is not a fundi.
Yes.
So they'll register for you the fundi as a fundi. They'll register other people as...
they will do it on site?
They will do it on site if you have them and they are not registered. If you have them registered, they are okay.
They do not have tests or anything. They'll just accredit the fundi.
What is supposed to be done is you are supposed to have accreditation is supposed to be gradual. We accredit you as just mtu wa mkono. After mtu wa mkono, you may graduate to being a fundi. That is after working in a particular industry for a particular duration. Who is going to know who is a fundi and who is not a fundi? It is you, the contractor, who have been contacted by the National Construction Authority, because it is you who is hiring people out there on the ground. It is you who has got the project.
Yes.
The National Construction Authority is not having any project. The National Construction Authority is only overseeing how you're implementing those particular projects through registering them and regulating the way we operate and the way we do things out there as we put up houses.
We have seen buildings collapse in Kiambu.
Yes.
And some parts of Nairobi.
Yes.
Does that poke holes into the effectiveness of these regulations, especially now that we are heading into El Nino season?
The regulation may not play a role as far as the collapsing of building is concerned. What plays a role, as we, in our initial discussion, I did emphasize that the developer is a key person in any construction. It is the developer who gives the finance. It is him who injects capital into the construction. It is his money, all her money, which is being used. Because actually he is the financier. In most cases, the financier may have a financial constraint. And the financial constraint may lead to cost-cutting measures. When you get into cost-cutting measures, that is when you are likely to compromise on the standards of the structure you are going to put up. And when you compromise on the standard of the structure that you are putting up, the structure is likely to collapse in case of a disaster. In most cases, most of the structure that collapse, they usually collapse during the rainy season.
Yes.
The reason is simple. The foundation was not done properly. If the foundation was not done properly, it may not be able to hold a lot of weight. If it is not able to hold a lot of weight and then there is water, it means the ground is likely to be soaked in a big way. And if the ground is soaked in a big way, then the building is likely to tilt.
Yes.
If the building tilts, automatically, because of our technology, which is not very advanced, like in China and in the Western countries, where there is a lot of development, the end result will be collapsing of our houses.
Yes.
If you do maybe some research, you realize most of these houses collapse during the rainy season.
Yes.
Another reason why building collapse in some of these areas is because of the soil profile. Kiambu is a very good place as far as the construction is concerned, because the foundation may not be very expensive. But unfortunately, that has also been a weakness, because when you go to areas where there is the red soil, people assume that it is easier to put a foundation in such areas. But that foundation may not factor the future. If you have a foundation which is not very strong, and your neighbor wants to build, and one of our biggest challenges, we are building our houses without leaving a leeway. We are doing it wall to wall. The neighbor, as he do excavation, he is likely to interfere with your foundation. In case it rains, when he has removed his soil, then your house is already very weak, and it is already compromised. So in case they don't do soiling, then you are likely to have your house coming down. And that is what has been happening. And in most cases, or in other cases, you could have done a foundation which is supposed to hold 5 floors. The reason, in most cases, most of our approvals, or whenever you're given approvals, in most cases you are supposed to have a house which is not having more than 5 floors. If you have more than 5 floors, then you should provide a lift for the tenant.
Yes.
If you don't have a lift for the tenant, then it should not go beyond that level.
Yes.
In case you have done a foundation which is supposed to hold 4 floors,
yes,
and along the way you get an appetite for more floors, then it means your foundation is not firm. Your foundation cannot hold the weight that you want to put up there. So you're going to have your house coming down.
Quickly, how can Kenyans contribute to ensuring that building regulations are followed, especially now that where compliance and building regulations seem to be overlooked? What is where do Kenyans
we live in a very dynamic society.
Yes.
And one of the major challenges in our society is that our people are a bit docile. Our people don't like asking questions. It's very easy to ensure that the regulations are followed. If somebody is putting up a house in your neighborhood, you should ensure that he has a site board. And the site board is supposed to lay out who is the architect who was contracted to do this particular job.
Yes.
Who is the structural engineer who was contracted to do this particular job?
Yes.
Who is the quantity surveyor who was contracted to do this particular job? Who is the contractor who was contracted to do this particular job? What is the magnitude of this particular job? And who is the owner of this particular project? Because whenever you go to a building, you always have a site board. The site board is supposed to lay out information. It's supposed to give the name of the owner of this particular building. It's supposed to give the details about the architect. Is he registered or not? It's supposed to give the details about the structural engineer, registered or not. It's supposed to give the detail of the quantity surveyor, registered or not. And it is also supposed to give details about the contractor. And if there is a subcontractor along the way, somebody who is going to be subcontracted to do a particular job, it's supposed to give those particular information. It is also supposed to show whether you have adhered to the National Environment Management Authority regulations.
Yes.
If they have not done that, if they have no license from the National Environment Management Authority, they have no license from the National Construction Authority, as a society, you can stop the building.
Yes.
Secondly, whenever you are building, when you are going for the National Environment Management Authority license,
yes,
there should always be public participation.
Yes.
That is one of the area which is normally overlooked. There should be public participation. Whenever you're doing public participation, if for example you are building a house in Githogoro, within Kiambu, people within that particular area, people within Githogoro should be invited to your place. They are the people who should know whether you're doing the right thing or not. So public participation ensures that there is involvement of the people within that particular setup.
Yes.
But when you put people out of, when you don't allow people to come in and participate in public participation, that simply means they are not aware.
Yes.
And when they see a building coming up in their area and they are not involved, that is when they should ask questions.
Yes.
They should involve the local administration and their questions why they were not involved. I know sometimes there is a lot of practices which is unethical within our setup.
Yes.
But those practices can be stopped.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, thank you for your time. That is all the time we had for this segment on Good Morning Kenya. We have been talking to Ronald Wanyoike on building regulations during El Nino. I have been your host, Mike Megwe. I will leave you in the able hands of Vivian Ndegwa for the next segment. Good morning.
ipasuke. Bingo amebeba abe.
Bingo na Kate wenyewe wako kwa mapenzi. Morning, Dad.
Yeah.
Kuna tatizo?
No, hamna tatizo. Niendeleeni na shughuli zenu.
Hakikisha umemlisha na umemwosha. Nikirejea hapa kama hujamlisha wala hujamwosha, na chochote kikimtokea utajuta.
No, it is possible, Kate. Cannot meet now.
Bingo anaelekea hospitalini kufanya test. Kama kuna kitu kimetokea ofisini, utajua jina lako uko hapo umejikalia tu.
Dyslexia is a learning disorder that affects one's ability to read, spell, write, and even speak at times.
My memories of school, I thought I was doing better than I really was. And then I look at my, my records, my school records, like, oh man, I wasn't a great student. I was really, I wasn't great at all.
Children who have it experience trouble with reading, writing, and spelling.
One of the things that we were trying to do here, in Africa, is really getting the teachers, just parents, aware that just because their child is having some issues, might be behavior issues, might just be learning issues. Doesn't mean they're bad. Doesn't mean they're lazy. There might be more than that.
This week on Thursday at 2 p.m.
Nini mnaenda kukamua ng'ombe za shule? Mnanyonya matiti ya ng'ombe. Nani anafanyanga hivi?
Nilipwa na mtoto kidogo, wewe ujifanye baba yake.
Ukanipatia pesa mimi.
Mimi si mwalimu.
Basi hapa ya ng'ombe ya ndama ndio hiyo sasa. Wait. This when did you teach your baby to come to kunyonya the matiti ya ng'ombe? When? Let me tell you, I'm a baby face, my friend. Mtu mwingine anafanana na hiyo sura.
Sura yako siwezi sawa.
He's lying, Your Honor. This man's a criminal and the whole town knows it. Your Honor, I'm not going to let him take my son.
The answer is no, no, and no. I won't do that.
And about the two of us? I think this is impossible. It's madness.
No.
Forget about it.
Wait. The only thing that I can tell you is that the bull was not there by accident. What did you do in the end? You kissed him, right?
I'm done being your wife. Right now, what I want is a divorce.
Thank you for staying with us right here on Good Morning Kenya. Now, today being a Wednesday, it is Women at the Forefront, and that is the segment that I am about to begin right now, or actually we are beginning right now. And on Women at the Forefront, we get to bring you women who are doing exemplary well in different fields. And today is no different, as I am joined by one Purity Karemi, who is well advanced in the tourism industry. She is also an author and works with the elderly as well as the community at large. Purity, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you so much.
We are pleased to have you here.
Thank you.
And now, as I was going through your bio, I read that you pride yourself, or from a very early age, you pride yourself in impacting people's lives positively. Maybe how did that come to be, from such an early age?
Yes, you're right. It came from an early age because even before I started my work with God, I used to visit orphanages. I used to visit the needy and donate what I could.
Okay,
but then I didn't know that.
I understand we're having an issue with your mic, so we should be coming back to you in a moment. But as I have said, we have Purity Karemi, and she's doing a lot of things. She has a ministry where she is working with the community. She is working with people who are elderly, people who are suffering from different kinds of ailments as the elderly, as well as, or rather, she is also working with adolescents and trying to just teach them on the dangers of drug abuse and try to just empower them into being great people in the society. And that is why we have her here as our woman at the forefront. And I believe your microphone is okay now. We can get back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, as I was saying, I used to do the community work, even without the ministry, because I'm now in ministry.
Yeah.
From an early age, I used to visit the orphanages. I had a passion for the needy. And it is later on that I came to realize that it's actually an area that that even God would love me to focus on. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
And then I was anointed for the ministry. And that's when now I started now taking it even more serious. Yeah. So mostly you will find me in the villages. In the villages with the poor, the needy, and especially even people that are not able to raise school fees. And the kind of help I offer is not only financially, because I came to realize that sometimes you can categorize the help as only financials. So there is even the emotional part and the mental part, but that is all now from a spiritual aspect. Yeah.
Okay, I get that. Before you got into all this, you used to work in the tourism industry, but I just want to touch a bit on that.
Yeah.
Maybe how would you say that tourism, you being in the tourism industry, impacted your life to probably what you're doing right now? Has it helped in any way? Did it help?
Okay, I believe it has helped because, first of all, let me just go back a little bit, because the tourism part, I did it in Germany. So I was blessed enough to be able to fly out there. I've been there for many years. So there is also an exposure that I've gotten from being in the European country, especially German being one of the strong countries in terms of even economy, technology. So you can learn, one can learn so much from being in such a country. So I ventured into tourism because I love tourism. And it's something actually I thought that I'll do I thought I would be doing it even now. And I worked at Frankfurt Airport. That was as a hostess. And then I also worked in travel agencies. So how it has impacted what I'm doing now, or the connection of it, I think because when you work in tourism, especially like one of the biggest airports in the world, because Frankfurt Airport is very big, you get to meet very many people, millions of people. So I think the meeting with people, the interacting with people, it teaches you how to be friendly, it teaches you how to be patient with people, and these are the same virtues or the same attributes that are also needed when we are helping in the community. Because the airport is also a busy place, so you have to have a kind of self-control, you have to have even a love for the people. And I find this is working for me even as I'm helping the people in the community, because it's not always walk in the park. So you have to remind yourself that you are in it for the love, and then the patience now that I've already experienced from working as in the tourism industry.
Yeah. And would you say there's a particular moment in your life whereby it made you believe that, nothing is impossible, and whatever you put your mind to, you can definitely do it?
You mean in the tourism part, or generally in my life?
Yeah,
of course there is. And this is where now my ministry comes in. I think I became alive. I came alive when I connected with God, when I started my walk with God. It's not that I didn't know God, because I was raised a Catholic, so I knew God. But when I gave my life to Christ, a new journey started, totally new. I always say that when you find your purpose, it's like God reintroduced you to yourself. So that's what happened to me, because everything changed. The desires changed. Okay, not all of them, but there are some desires that became secondary because God shown me that there is now something greater, you know, because there is good and there is greater. So I would say that knowing God, that was the turning point for me. Yeah.
Okay. You're really passionate about working with the elderly. How did that come about, and why specific elderly people, that is those who are having different ailments?
Yeah, actually that did not come long time. It's quite new. I'll explain that. I've been working and reaching out to the poor, the orphans, the needy. For me, it has been whoever is in need. I had not specialized in an area. But 2019, I felt the leading of the Lord that I should take a certain course to study how to take care of the elderly, especially those with Alzheimer, dementia, and those who have experienced stroke. And now this is not just about the elderly, because we have people even with 50, 60 who have experienced stroke, and then there is the effect of stroke. So I felt that I should take that course. It's not something that I would have imagined. I resisted at first, but later on I felt that this was the leading of the Lord. So I did that without knowing that I'm going to extend that even here at home. So I studied that course, how to take care of the elderly, how to take care of those who have Alzheimer, dementia, and what I mentioned. And I also worked, after studying, I worked in Germany, taking care of the elderly and the patients who are ailing from those sicknesses or recovering from that. So that's when then I felt that that's something I'm supposed to be doing even in Kenya. So I started realizing that the reason why the Lord wanted me to do that, it's because it's badly needed in Kenya. Yeah, because when I compare how in Europe, how they take care of the elderly and such cases of people who have experienced such sicknesses, I think in Kenya it's not as the issue is not well known, or people are not well taught. So I also see here in Kenya sometimes people mean well. Maybe you have a relative who is suffering from the effect of stroke. You mean well, you want to help, but because you have not been taught, like I didn't know, I was taught also. So because you don't know, you end up actually even worsening the situation. And maybe I can give a small example so that you understand. For example, a person who has suffered from stroke, or even patients with dementia, you know, these kind of sicknesses, they affect the brain. So even the cognitive parts are affected. So the kind of study, the kind of course I studied, we were taught how to help these patients, or to help the elderly to recover what can be recovered, and also to help them retain what is still there. So for example, now I wanted to give an example. When someone has stroke, the effect of it, or dementia, sometimes they might not be able to hold a spoon while they are feeding. So you see, if they can try a little bit, we should encourage them to do so. But you see now, some family members, because of love, you want to take the spoon and just do it for them. This is wrong, you see. Because when you take the spoon and do it for them, the brain remains inactive. The part of the brain that was affected by the sickness, it remains inactive. So I do that through the ministry, helping the awareness, raising the awareness, because I have realized this kind of thing, it's being done in the hospitals. It's not that it's not there. But I think it's not enough when we limit it to the hospitals, because even in the hospitals, people have to pay for those kind of things, and not everyone has the money to pay for those kind of things. So I think we should extend it in the community, we should extend it in the villages and where we are, so that even as we are living with our elderly, you know what happens, the main reason of the study that I studied is to bring dignity back to these people. Because maybe it's an elderly person. This person was maybe this person was a manager somewhere when they were younger. Maybe she was a teacher somewhere. Maybe he was a boss somewhere. But when this sickness strike or when they get older, they behave a kind of way. So people might disrespect them. And they still, even when they have the problem in the brain, they still feel disrespected. So my work, or the work that I'm helping others to realize, is we need to treat these people still with dignity, because they are still, for example, for myself, Karimi or purity, even when I'm older, I will still be purity. I will still like that dignity to be accorded to me. So that's why we are doing that.
Yeah, and I can imagine, you transitioning from tourism, being, having worked in one of the biggest airports, and transitioning into a job that many people really wouldn't want to do, a job that many people would look down upon, looking after the elderly. It seems like, why would you want to leave such a career to get into this? So I can just imagine the kind of passion that you have into that. While making that transition, did you have people who were, trying to tell you, or speaking negatively about it in your mind, or trying to question, why do you want to make this transition?
Yes, I did because getting to work at Frankfurt Airport is not an easy thing. It's something I had desired, it's something I had prayed for, and when I got there I felt like I had achieved something. So of course there were people who are not understanding, and some people may think even you're foolish taking such kind of a decision. But as for me, I had the conviction that this is the way I should go. It wasn't easy. It was not easy for me. But by the grace of God, I was able to understand, because I was already studying the Word of God. So I was able to understand that at the end of the day, there will be a reward for me. And I still miss the tourism aspect. I still miss the airport. I miss all that pertains with tourism, because I love it. But still, there are things I've gained now that I didn't have then. For example, I'm now an author through the ministry. So there are things that I've gained that I didn't have before. And I still get to travel, because now I travel under the ministry. So also through the ministry I travel.
You've spoken about you being an author, and I can see you have 2 books with you right there. If you can just tell us a bit about each of the books and how they came to be.
Yes, of course. So this is my first book. I don't know, should I show it?
Yeah, sure.
This is Seek First the Kingdom of God. Is the first book I wrote. I didn't know that I can write books until I walked with God, and then after several years, that's when the Lord was releasing a prophecy through several people, and then to myself also, that I should write books. What I know is I've always loved writing. Sometimes I can even write my prayers. Since I was in school, I love writing. Sometimes I might be going through a tough situation, and I will feel it's easier for me to write instead of praying or speaking. So I have those moments. So, but I didn't know that it was something in me, that the Lord had put the gift of writing in me. So Seek First the Kingdom of God is my first book. It's birthed, actually all my books, because there are 3 of them, they are birthed through the experiences that the Lord has taken me through. I write these books because the Lord has taught me through the Holy Spirit, and also through some servants of God, that Christianity is not based only in spiritual things. We can prosper, we can advance in very many ways. We can be authors, we can be owners of institutions that take care of the community. So through these books, I help people understand that we have a purpose. I'm very passionate about helping people discover their purpose. Because like I said, the moment I discovered my purpose, that's when I felt that my life had started. So I want to help people, and I thank God that He helps me. I do help people discover their purposes. So through writing the books, I'm trying to explain that Christianity is not about the prayer, the fasting, the church. It's about also fulfilling our purposes in the marketplaces, wherever you find yourself. If you find yourself, for example now, Vivian, you're fulfilling your purpose. I want to believe that. If you find yourself at the hospital, you're a doctor, you're maybe a lawyer, a judge, you're fulfilling your purpose. So it's helping people not to limit the work of God to just the church and the spiritual issue. Because like I said, I didn't know I was an author. It's God who pulled that out of me. Yeah? So I think especially the young people, I want to encourage them even to write books. This is another thing now I'm encouraging everyone, especially the young people, write books, because you know, when you've not written a book, you think this is huge. This is unachievable. This is not for me. You think there are people who are supposed to write books. This is not for me. Of course, not everyone will write books. But what I want to say is, it's not like a mountain that cannot be conquered. And then in the digital world, we have the audiobooks, we have the e-books. So I'm encouraging people to write and also to read books. Because like I meet people who tell me, it's very hard for me to read, or I'm so busy. Then I help them understand there is audiobooks. You can be cooking, you can be washing utensils, and you can be listening to something that is helping you to develop yourself. And then
the other book?
The other book, yeah. The other book is about fasting, biblical fasting. It's actually a sequel from this one, but expounded on one topic of fasting. Yeah. So this is another topic that I'm passionate about to the Christians, that because, you know, I'm passionate about doing what we are doing with the right speed. I believe that we don't have so much time to waste, because if I can give an example of Jesus Christ, when we see how he was functioning, he had an urgency. He was saying that I have to work because night is coming and I cannot work. And that's the kind of urgency and speed I like to work with. And that's why I talked about fasting. There are things we should not be wasting our time fasting about, because we want now to save time for other things. We want to be great at the marketplaces. We want to be great even what we are doing. If I can give an example of myself, sometimes even the 24 hours is not enough. I want to write books. I want to be there for the community. I am a mother. I want to be there for my son. So fasting, there is just one principle that the Lord taught me. We do not fast for bread. This is basically any material things, yeah? So I'm just encouraging Christians, we can use our time wisely, because if we start fasting for bread, these are things that the Lord has said, I will hand them to you. I will give them to you. We don't need to go and beg him for them. Because you see, fasting is humbling yourself. It's like begging. And this is something very powerful. The fasting is a powerful weapon. It's a powerful tool, but it should be used wisely. Because when we start to go for 7 days fasting, 40 days fasting, you're fasting for bread, you're fasting for a car, you're fasting for a house, it's not biblical, because no one in the Bible fasted for bread, no one fasted for material thing. As a matter of fact, everyone that we see in the Bible, they were very busy fulfilling their purposes. No one even prayed for bread. No one even prayed for these things that we are now praying about. Yeah, because they understood one principle that I now want to pass to the people what the Lord has passed to me. Follow your, wake up in the morning, get your timetable, follow your purpose, and the other things that will just be handed to you as long as you're in your place of purpose. So that's why I wrote the biblical fasting, to help people understand why we fast and what we should fast about.
Okay, I want to get back into fulfilling one's purpose. And if there's one thing that hinders most of us to fulfilling our purpose, is what we call imposter syndrome or self-doubt, where you feel like you don't think you are really worthy of some of these things. You don't think you're good enough to write a book. You don't think you're good enough to be at a place where you feel deep in your heart you need to be. How does one push past that?
Okay, for me, I believe the issue of having a connection with God, a good relationship with God, I believe that is fundamental, because that's what helped me. Because God will also be even your cheerleader. He will be cheering you on. I see him doing that to me. When the fear comes and I think I cannot do this thing, you know, when you walk with God, you know when he's speaking to you. So I feel him pushing me out there. Yeah? You know, even when you read the word of God, the Lord says, I am the lift of your hand. Yeah, and arise and shine. So it's just good things that he tells us. So I think the one thing, having a good relationship with God helps, because actually it's very difficult to recognize your purpose if you don't have a relationship with God. It's possible, of course, but I think it's easier when you're already in that relationship. The other thing is about the fear. The fear. I would like to believe everyone experiences that fear, because even as I was coming here, of course I asked myself, what do I want to offer to the people? I don't want to come to such a platform and then I'm just talking about things that are not helping the people. So there is that fear in everyone. Am I going to give my best? But I like to, there is a pastor, a teacher of the Bible who is Joyce Meyer. She likes to say, do it afraid. So we have to learn we have to learn how to overcome the fear, because it will always be there. It will never go away completely. It will always be there, and it's a good thing, because if it is not there, we might overestimate ourselves and end up not even giving our best, because we are overestimating ourselves. Yeah, so I think the fear is not a bad thing, and anyone with that is not something strange. We just learn through even educating yourself, reading books, and even preparing yourself in the private. For example, now, what I'm doing now, I prepared myself in private, and not because I had this appointment, even years back, because now you keep practicing in mind that maybe a door will open somewhere and I need to be ready for this. So you practice in secret. So when the door opens, that's not when you're starting from zero.
Yeah, they say when opportunity meets preparation, that's when success is bound to happen. Because you are already, you had already prepared yourself. So when the opportunity comes, you just get into it. Maybe if I may ask you, what is your greatest inspiration in everything that you're doing? Because you're doing a lot, you know, with the community, with the ministry that you have right now. What is your greatest inspiration?
My greatest inspiration? You mean like my goal, my zeal?
Yeah, what keeps you going? What is that inspiration that makes you, you know, every morning once you wake up, you want to keep going because there's something that is inspiring you?
Okay. For me, it's I'll just come back again to God, because I love my relationship with God. It's knowing that I am pleasing God, because I like to do something that I know this pleases God. And even as I'm helping out there, I do not see myself like I'm helping the people. For example, if I come and help you as Lillian, for me, I do not see myself as I'm helping Lillian. For me, I see myself as I'm doing this to God. So, you know, this kind of ministry, sometimes you'll even help people and they will come and even do bad things to you later on. I experienced this too. But it doesn't affect me, because when I did it to you in the first place, I was not doing it to you. I was doing it to God through you. So I think that is my inspiration, and I love it to see when the standard of people are raised. I think I should mention also something. I have gone through tough times. I was raised well, I didn't lack anything, but when the Lord started working with me, there are things He permitted to come in my life. So I found myself in a place of lack. And this was very hard for me. And that's the time now the Lord started speaking to me about the needy. Because you see, if I didn't lack, I would not have understood about the needy. You know, I do go in the villages. Sometimes I enter into their houses. It's just something, it's raining, it's just bad. You can't even imagine how somebody can live there. But you see, because of the experience God has taken me through, the lack and other things. I've written about all of that in my book. In my books, because I've experienced that. It's my own experience, and the revelation that I've been birthed, they are through those experiences. So I am passionate because I went through that. So I know how it feels to lack. I know how it feels not to have enough food. I know how it feels that you have a bill to pay, you have things to pay, and you do not have the money for that. So I know how it feels, and this is why I feel when I'm dealing with the people in the community, the needy, I feel at home.
Yeah.
Because I relate with them, and actually I feel very comfortable there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get back to you working with the elderly, and I understand that in most European countries, we have elderly homes. You know, when people age, they tend to take them to the elderly homes, but that is not really something we do here in the country, because we look after our own elderly people. We look after our own grandfathers, we look after our own great-grandmothers, for those who are there. Do you feel like it is something that we should adopt as Kenyans, whereby we have homes for the elderly? Because there are those who sometimes are just left, their children grow up, they leave, and they don't really come back to check on them or anything. Maybe they just send money and that's it. So is this something that we should adopt, or we just stick to our ways where we stay with our elderly people?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking that question, because I really wanted to touch about that. Yes, in Europe, like where I worked, is an elderly home. Yeah. It's well established. Almost in every city, they have several of them. It's very well established, and even the insurance takes care of that. And those who are well up, they can pay their bills for the elderly homes. Now, coming back to Kenya, this is even a new thing, an elderly home. Yeah. There are some people even in Kenya, they have never heard of elderly homes. As far as I know, we have very few in Kenya, very few. And the thing is, our tradition, it's very different with the tradition. It has been very different with the tradition in Europe. But now things are changing. Families, you used to be there for your relatives. You used to even to have your grandmother, your great-grandmother with you at home. But now this is changing. We have elderly people who are suffering, and their children, like you're saying, they have left home. And also we have in the country cases of high drug abuse, like alcoholism. Yeah. So these children who are supposed to be taking care of their parents or their grandparents, they are out there drinking. They don't even know themselves. They don't even know their identity. So the community is in crisis. So because the elderly are now forced, they are sick, they are not strong enough. Even those who are not sick, they are not strong enough. But now the roles have reversed. Now they are being forced to take care of these ones who are now going to drink, and they are on the street. But I believe the reason why the Lord spoke to me about the elderly, it's because we tend to look more at the orphans, the widows, and the elderly. It's like they are pushed back there, and they are suffering. So I think we should start, I hope and I believe that in Kenya, we should start to think about homes for the elderly. It's not something I would have loved for our country. I would have loved that we continue with love, that spirit of love where we are taking care of each other, because it's not a very, it has its advantages and disadvantages. Because when you have your elderly in an elderly home, you cannot compare it to with them being at home. Yeah. But now instead of them being out there suffering, they are not even accorded their dignity anymore. Then it's better for them to be in an elderly home where people know what they are doing, because some of them, they need even to be changed the what do you call the diapers for the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of them need this kind of thing. So you see, when you have an elderly home, you need even different kind of workers. You need those who will take care of the washing part, the cleaning part, and then you need those with the kind of skills I have, who will concentrate with the brain and their dignity and their self-confidence. So I think we should consider this. And I actually forgot to mention that I have also a land where I come from in Embu, where I also want to have that elderly home, among other things. So this is a project that is now, it's on the ground level, but it's a project that I want to build for the elderly, that they can have a place. So I would encourage, because one person or two or a few is not enough, I would encourage that people would consider that, because it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We actually celebrated the International Day of the Elderly People just the other day. So I think whatever you're saying is really important, whereby we have somewhere where those who, we're not saying we abolish our tradition completely, whereby we look after our people. We don't take them somewhere else for them to be taken care of. But we should have more of these facilities for those who don't have people to look after them. So I believe it's a good initiative that you're taking upon right now. And maybe what do you feel, or who do you feel should join in this in order to just have places like whatever you want to build?
Actually, Vivian, everyone. Everyone has something to offer. You see, even the poor have something to give. Everyone. Starting, of course, with the government. But I think we are in a place where we should be doing things without even waiting for the government. There are things we have waited for decades for the government to do. So I think we should have that passion for some things like what we are talking about, to be able to say, even if the government is doing this and there is something I can do, let me be taking the first steps. So as the government or as the other someone else join board, we are already doing something. But this waiting for one another, I think it's what is causing the country to be where it is, because I think we should move. If you feel you should move. And I said that even the poor have something to offer. Something to offer. This is, it's also biblical. That's where I get this principle. Even the poor have something to offer. No one can say, I don't have anything to give. Even these people I reach out to, they have something to give. And you see, we have to encourage that giving spirit also, even with the poor. Because if they are not encouraged also that you have something to give, they will remain with that poverty mentality, and they will not move forward. But when we show them what you're giving me, I actually need it. Because I might be bringing you something that you think maybe is big, is huge, is expensive. You might be giving me something that is not expensive, but it's something that is expensive in another way. So this is also what I encourage. And it also creates an atmosphere where now even the self-esteem the health of the self-esteem is now being even better. So I think we should encourage that.
Okay. Maybe as we wind up, how are you reaching out to young people?
So to young people, I'm reaching out to them through social media and word of mouth, and I also go to them. And sometimes it's even one. So, someday I might even help one. Some days I might call a meeting and we sit together with several of them. So for me, I don't limit myself. I believe the Lord orders my feet. Sometimes it may be 1, sometimes 10, sometimes 100. So that's how I reach out to them.
Okay. And how has that been? You know, you working closely with the youth as well. How has that been for you?
It's good. It's great. Because, you know, with the youth, the kind of youth we have now, it's another generation. We need to approach them in a very different way. And this is what also I'm telling people, that when we are approaching the youth, sometimes we might think this person is stubborn, this person is rebellious, but we are functioning from a different kind of ones, you know, because now even their thinking is different. So, you know, when I approach the youth, I like to show them what they can do. For example, these books, we designed, okay, my son and I, we didn't know how to decide book covers. I was supposed to give this work to somebody, but there was some kind of delay and everything. And I believe it's the leading of the Lord. I told my son, we can do this, come, let us inform ourselves. We learned to do this from YouTube, because now YouTube is full of so much information. We can learn much from there. So that's why we learned how to design the book cover. You see, in the process, I even save money for that. You can use that money for something else. So this is what I'm telling the youth. There are things like a book design you can do. There are things, digital things you can do, web design. Some are not well informed. Like we said, some may think even these things are so big for them. So for me is to show them, to try to sit down with them. And when I meet them, I don't tell them first about these huge things. Sometimes I may go with them somewhere, buy for them a cup of tea, have lunch with them. If it's a lady and I'm able, I can go to a salon. In the process, you know, the person will now see this is not an enemy. Even if she's older than me, this is actually a friend. So now from that, after that, then I can go deeper. I can introduce other things. That's how I deal with the youth.
Okay. Thank you so much, Karimi, for joining us. Thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for the job that you're doing out here with the community. It is very, very commendable.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, this is where we put a cap to today's show. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been tuning in to Good Morning Kenya. I have been your host, Vivian Ndegwa, and now we head direct to the Senate proceedings.
These are the moments we live for every Friday as we catch up with the world of football.
Manchester City go in front.
With your favorite stars in rivalries like no other that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Learn a few tricks that keep you ahead of the game and spice it all with unforgettable moments on Dunda Dunda. On Saturday, you're in for another treat as we rock your weekend with all sporting disciplines, bringing you insights on what's happening behind the scenes as we share players and athlete stories, preparations, and celebrate their achievements.
Charging to the line! Is it going to be a world record? Yes, it is! She smashed it!
Whatever angle you look at, we've got you covered. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima tutajifunza jinsi ya kupanda miche
badala ya kuomba pesa kwa barabara, tungaungana pamoja ili tubadilishane mawazo.
Kisha tutengeze mbolea asili.
Ukiangalia zile vitu zimepandwa na compost na zile zimepandwa na artificial